Toughest Mudder Philadelphia recap with results, statistics, and interviews. This episode has more interviews than Jim Campbell has headbands. Okay, that's a lie. This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast. Philadelphia was the most recent host of Toughest Mudder, the 8-hour race that serves as a precursor to World's Toughest Mudder in November. Before we get into the race, though, I want to let you know about something that happened after the regular Tough Mudder on Saturday morning. Ian Panter was leaving the course in his vehicle when his car was hit. Here's the news story from WXYZ in Detroit, where Ian is from.
It's a grueling hours-long race called the Tough Mudder. Last weekend it was near Philadelphia, and Ian Panter knew he had to be there. But after the race, the 36-year-old got into a terrible accident riding in the passenger seat. The man from Oak Park is now in a hospital, family by his side.
We started a GoFundMe account page for Ian, and, if you can just look within, I believe it's 20 hours now, we've raised over $12,000.
His close friend, Jared Gorbach, found out soon after. The man in great physical condition has been unresponsive since Saturday, suffering from a traumatic brain injury.
Credit to WXYZ for the audio. Ian is currently under heavy sedation in the hospital. If you would like to help Ian, there is a GoFundMe page set up to help his family pay his medical bills. They have a goal of $25,000 to raise. There are links to the GoFundMe at all of the major Toughest Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder Facebook groups. But if you're not a member, you can go to the World's Toughest Podcast Facebook page. That's at facebook.com/World's Toughest Pod. Toughest Mudder Philadelphia. Before we get to the race recap, let's go to some audio of pre-race preparations. You remember Kris Mendoza from our Toughest Mudder Philly preview episode? Kris is well known and beloved in the World's Toughest community, and as well as being a 100-miler, so everyone knows who he is. So he was able to get a couple good chats. Here's interviews from Kris Mendoza.
So we have Trevor Cichosz here, just heading on the way to the venue. Trevor, how you feeling about tonight?
I feel 50 years old.
What do you mean 50 years old?
Oh man, everything hurts. Aerobically, I feel ready, but physically, my body is broken.
Well, there you have it. We'll see how he does tonight. There's Trevor Cichosz, the 50-year-old man, going for 50 miles maybe. We'll see. So we have Lou Fisher here. Lou, ready for Toughest Philly? How you feeling?
Feeling good.
Yeah?
Feeling real good.
What do you think about how many miles you want to get today?
So I got 25 and cut myself off in LA. I got 35 in Atlanta. It was good. But I had stomach issues like Trevor and everyone else. Today I want minimum 40. So
you were here, folks. Lou Fisher, 40 miles.
40 or bust.
Or bust. He's calling it.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
Steph Bishop here. How you feeling about the race today?
Just gonna go out there and have fun.
Go have fun?
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Of course. Awesome. Good luck.
Thank you, you too.
So we have John Fagan here from 3 a.m. Waterfalls. John, how you feeling about the course today?
I'm feeling excited. It's going to be great. Good looking course. Good people out on the course. We're ready to get go tough. Let's do it.
There you go. And we have Jim Campbell, the GOAT here. Jim, what are you thinking?
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Hey, Jim, how are you?
I'm really good. I'm really excited about tonight. Everything's looking great. Team Go Tough is looking awesome. We're missing Ryan and Lindsay, but we're going to kick everyone's ass.
Well, you heard it from the GOAT right there. And we have the one and only Keith Allen, who won't stop touching the small of my back right now. Keith.
See, I'm just trying to rub off or rub on some of this doza. You know what I'm saying? If I need to get to that, what is it?
Hey, you got a little bit
45.
Of watch out.
Sorry, that's tailwind, not doza. Doza's a crazy dentist. You know what I'm saying? He's got me on that laffy taffy. He's like, I'm gonna pull your teeth, Keith. What's up? Yeah.
So how you feeling about the course today?
I don't know. I haven't looked at a map. I don't even know what I'm wearing right now.
Do it live.
Do what live?
This race.
I'm just coming to experience the race. You know what I'm saying?
Don't let it experience you, dude.
Christopher Mendoza. Ryan.
I think that's all we have time for.
That last guy, Keith Allen, is best known recently as the guy who wrote the Christopher Mendoza song. And it seems like Chris and Keith can't get in the same room together without Keith Allen writing a song about Christopher Mendoza. Chris had some more interviews for us.
So we have Joel Forsyth here, ready for toughest Philly. Joel, what are you thinking about the course? How are you feeling?
Well, we did a scout lap today, and I know it's going to change a little bit, but overall, just terrain out there is really fun. Soft ground, different than LA and Vegas, so I'm excited about the grass and the rolling hills, and I'm really excited about the difficulty of the obstacles. I think that'll play in my favor and less in Chris's favor. Just kidding.
But seriously. Nice. Well, good luck out there.
Cheers, man. We'll see you out there.
We have Melissa Sharkbait Dugan here. Melissa, how you feeling?
I'm excited.
Ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, what are you thinking today? How's the hip? Okay, for those of you that don't know, she ran UK last week.
Yeah.
So she's still feeling it a little bit, so we'll see how she does out there. Excited?
I'm excited. I'll have fun and be with everybody I love, so that's what counts.
Awesome.
If it's 3 laps or 6 laps, it's still fun.
It's still 6 laps.
Yeah.
We love you.
Love you.
We have Morgan Mackay here, third place at World's Toughest Mudder. Morgan, how you feeling?
Woo! I feel good.
Okay, we need more from you. What are you thinking about right now? How are you? What do you think you're gonna get?
I feel pretty good. My body's good. My energy is good. I'm really hoping for top 5 podium. Definitely. I really want. Yep.
And that's all she has for you. Well, good luck, Morgan.
Thank you.
Christopher Mendoza, everybody. He is a legitimately great interviewer. He has good rapport with the racers. They know him. He knows them. He asks good questions, kind of gets the feel for how they're doing, kind of catches the pre-race jitters. You can kind of feel that in the interviews. People are nervous before a big race. And well done, Chris. Good job. All right, let's look at some numbers, and then we're going to talk results. Toughest Mudder is held on a 5-mile looped course. The goal is to complete as many 5-mile loops as you can within the 8-hour time limit. Toughest Mudder Philly was a difficult course. Toughest Mudder Philly and Toughest Mudder Europe were the first 2 courses to feature one 5-mile loop. Before that, at Toughest Mudder Los Angeles and Toughest Mudder Atlanta, there were 2 5-mile loops that had less obstacles per loop. And as we get into the interviews later in the episode, you'll see why that made a big difference in the course difficulty. Philly was the 4th toughest Mudder of the year. The first 3 were in Los Angeles, Atlanta, and England. The goal for most non-elite athletes is to reach 25 miles, which will qualify you for contender status at World's Toughest Mudder. At Philly, 208 runners out of 717 qualified as contenders, or 29%. 208 out of 717, 29%. How does that compare with the other toughest courses? Philly had less total contenders than any other toughest except LA, who had 153. But LA only had 336 people run the race. Philly had 717. Philly had a lower percentage of contenders, 29%, than any other toughest. Europe had 33% qualify as contenders. Atlanta had 61%, and LA had 46%. Total contender numbers so far, 2,272 people have run Toughest Mudder. 885 have completed 25 miles. 39% have become contenders. Let's talk about the results. First, a note, Ryan Atkins and Lindsey Webster were not in Philly this weekend. Ryan and Lindsey both won the first 2 Toughest Mudder races held in the U.S. They did not race in England last week. But Trevor Cichosz and Allison Tai were in Philly, and they both took the top spot on the podium. Let's talk about the men's podium first, and then we'll talk about the women's. For the men, first place was Trevor Cichosz with 40 miles in 7 hours and 33 minutes. Second place was Jordan McDougall with 40 miles in 7:41. Third place was Austin Azar with 40 miles in 7:56. Fourth place was Mark Jones with 40 miles in 8:01. And fifth place was Jesse Bruce with 40 miles in 8:21. Sixth and seventh place also got 40 miles within 1 or 2 minutes of fifth place. Trevor Cichosz in first place is a familiar name to Tough Mudder. He is the men's World's Toughest Mudder champion, defending champion. You could say he is the World's Toughest Mudder. He won 2016 Worlds with 105 miles. Trevor also won second place in 2015 and third place in 2014. He is a familiar face on the podium in these parts. Second place was Jordan McDougall with his first toughest podium. Jordan's an ultra marathoner with multiple first place finishes in those ultra marathons. He's not a stranger to obstacle course racing. He's done multiple Savage races and Battle Frogs, and we're going to talk to him later in the episode. In third place was Austin Azar. Austin was part of what was probably the greatest moment in obstacle course racing that has been captured on film. It was toward the end of the 24 hours at World's Toughest Mudder, and CBS had cameras tracking Trevor and Austin. And Trevor was in first place. He was being run down by Austin, and Trevor knew he was coming for him. As Austin passed Trevor, they shared a quick fist bump and congratulated each other. Trevor ended up passing Austin on the next lap for the win. But that 2 or 3 second moment where they were passing each other, fist bump, they were happy for each other, even though they were trying to doing everything they could to beat each other after 24 hours. That little moment encapsulated everything that World's Toughest Mudder is about. Like Trevor, Austin is a member of the World's Toughest 100-mile club. In fourth place was Mark Jones. This is Mark Jones' second time to qualify as an elite contender this year. Mark finished in fifth place at Toughest Mudder Los Angeles. In fifth place was Jesse Bruce. Jesse ran World's Toughest in 2016, finishing with 45 miles in 11 hours. On to the women. First place is Allison Tai with 35 official miles. Second place is Zoe Shazin with 35 miles. Third place is Alex Chikorita Rodania with 30 official miles. Fourth place is Morgan Mackay with 30 official miles. And fifth place is Adrian Alvord with 30 miles. The reason I say official miles for Allison, Chikorita, and Morgan is all three of them were minutes away from completing another lap when the final horn sounded. The race is officially from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. the next day, but here's how it really works. Everyone starts at 12. Midnight, everyone goes at the same time. At 7:45, the start line is closed down. So you've been running laps for 7 hours and 45 minutes. You cannot start a new lap after 7:45 a.m. At 8:30, the finish line closes. No laps completed after 8:30 will count. And any miles you completed on that last loop, if you don't get to the finish line by 8:30, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles, however many miles, do not count toward your final total. So if they had blown the horn at 8:35 or 8:40, Allison, Chikorita, and Morgan would each have completed 5 more miles than they've been given credit for. A little bit more about the top 5 women. If you listen to the podcast regularly, you know Allison Tai already. She was in first place. We had a long talk in episode 17 about Toughest Atlanta, and we're actually going to talk to her for a few minutes toward the end of this episode. If you live in British Columbia, you should check out the gym she's opening on July 1st. You can go to Van City OCR for more information on Allison Tai's gym. In second place was Zoe Shazin. Zoe ran World's Toughest Mudder in 2016, and she got 50 miles. In third place was Chikorita. This is Chikorita's second third-place finish, along with Atlanta, where she finished right behind Allison Tai. In fourth place was Morgan Mackay. Morgan is on Instagram as World's Toughest Morgan. She finished in third place at World's Toughest 2016 with 80 miles, 6 minutes behind second place. That second place winner at World's Toughest last year, Suzanne Kraus, who won first place at Toughest Mudder Europe last week. In fifth place is Adrian Alvord. Adrian has persevered to get her elite contender status. In LA, she finished in 9th place with 30 miles. In Atlanta, she finished in 6th place, again with 30 miles. In Philly, she finally cracked the top 5 with 30 miles. Congratulations, Adrian. Here's one of the reasons I am a huge fan of this series of toughest races. As we go through the 6 races, we keep seeing people pop in and pop out and go up against each other. There are so many storylines to watch. I'm not exaggerating. I could literally talk about storylines from Toughest Mudder and last year's World's Toughest Mudder leading up to this World's Toughest Mudder all day long. Do you want some storylines to talk about? Trevor Cichosz. He's the defending World's Toughest Mudder champion. He sat out Toughest LA because he had a foot injury. He ran Toughest Atlanta, finished in 6th place, 5 miles back of 5th. Is he still hurt? What's going on with Trevor? Oh, nothing. I'm fine. Comes to Philly and comes from behind to take first place and the $5,000 prize. What about the women? Stefanie Bishop, women's World's Toughest Mudder champion, 2016. Like Trevor, she sat out Toughest Mudder LA. Don't worry. There's plenty of races to get your top 5 in. If she wants to get an elite contender for World's Toughest Mudder 2017, she needs to finish in the top 5 at one of the Toughest Mudder races. She sat out LA. Okay, that's fine. No big deal. There's 5 more left. Atlanta, second race. 10 miles in, she had to stop. England did not make the trip. That's the 3rd race. That's fine. Barely anybody from the U.S. went over there. There's still 3 races to go. Philly, 6th place. Now there's just 2 races left, Whistler and Chicago. That's right now. As we stand now, there's 2 races left, Whistler and Chicago. The first one, Whistler, is in Canada. Lindsay Webster will be there. Allison Tai will be there. She lives down the road. That's 2 of the slots gone. Those 2 women are going to be in the top 5. Sara Knight will be there. She's finished in the top 5 3 out of 4 times already. She'll probably be in the top 5. So that's 3 of the slots gone. There's 2 slots left. If Chikorita comes, she'll probably get one of those top 5 slots. So there's 1 slot open, and you know somebody there is going to get a slot that we've never heard of before. I'm not saying Stefanie's in trouble. She'll be fine. She's going to get her spot, either in Whistler or in Chicago. But watching how that plays out and where she gets that top 5 spot will be entertaining to watch. I could keep going. Sara Knight, Ryan Atkins. Those are just the elites you know about. If you want stories, we can talk about Jim Campbell, Matty Gregg, Sharkbait, Mark James, and Sara Knight. They're going to all 6 toughest mudders this year, from England to Canada, all over the U.S. What's that about? Why are they doing that? And without the toughest races, we wouldn't have any of this. Toughest Mudder is the best thing that Tough Mudder has done since World's Toughest debuted in 2011. Well done, guys and girls. Speaking of elite contenders, there are now 16 male and 14 female elite contenders. To qualify as an elite contender, like I just said, you need to finish in the top 5 at a Toughest Mudder event, which will qualify you to be an elite contender for World's Toughest Mudder 2017. Elite contenders will receive premium pit location, premium start line access, and qualify for the $50,000 bonus prize for winning World's Toughest Mudder and completing 110 miles for the men and 100 miles for the women. Let me make just a quick aside about the bonuses, both the $50,000 bonus at Vegas and the $5,000 bonus for getting 50 miles at a Toughest Mudder race. Sometimes I hear this, people say this, people who should know better say this over and over again. There's a $50,000 bonus prize for the first male to hit 110 miles, for the first female to hit 100 miles. The prize is not for the first person to hit the mileage mark. The prize is for the winning person if they also reach that mileage mark. Because if someone hits 110 miles first, if runner A gets 110 miles first, and then runner B passes runner A and wins the race, runner B is going to get that bonus prize. They've explained this in the past before, and every year people keep saying that. The first one to get 50 miles at a toughest... No, it is the first person... It has nothing to do with first. It has to do with first place. If you win the race and you reach that mileage mark, you will get the bonus prize. There are 2 more chances to qualify as an elite contender. June 17th in Whistler, British Columbia, and August 26th in Chicago, Illinois. Allison Tai and Chikorita joined Sara Knight as the only 3-time elite contender qualifiers. Austin Azar and Mark Jones joined Ryan Atkins and Chad Trammell as the only men to qualify more than once. All 4 of them have qualified twice. After a strong second-place performance at Toughest Mudder Europe, Sara Knight had an opportunity to become the first 4-time qualifier, and we're going to talk to her about that in this episode. She did not reach the top 5 in Philly. In fact, she got 15 miles, and she'll talk about why she got that mileage this time instead of something much, much higher like she's used to. The new elite contenders coming out of Philly are Trevor Cichosz, Jordan McDougall, Jesse Bruce, Zoe Shazin, Morgan Mackay, and Adrian Alvord. So here are your 2017 elite contenders so far. For the men, Ryan Atkins from LA and Atlanta, Chad Trammell, LA and the UK, Austin Azar, LA and Philly. Mark Jones, LA and Philly. Glenn Race, LA. Ryan Woods, Atlanta. Luke Bosick, Atlanta. Tyler Nash, Atlanta. Van Tran, Atlanta. John Albin from the UK. Michael Schuett from the UK. Lucas Abrahan from the UK. Felix Baker from the UK. Trevor Cichosz from Philly. Jordan McDougall from Philly. And Jesse Bruce from Philly. For the women, the elite contenders so far are Sara Knight from LA, Atlanta, and the UK. Allison Tai, LA, Atlanta, and Philly. Chikorita, LA, Atlanta, and Philly. Lindsay Webster, LA and Atlanta. Kayla Coblin from LA. April Hartwig from LA. Casey Northrup, Atlanta. Suzanne Krause from the UK. Ehrlich Evanson from the UK. Beth Alban from the UK. Sorrel Lewis from the UK. Zoe Shazin from Philadelphia. Morgan Mackay from Philadelphia. Adrian Alvord from Philadelphia. Here's a couple of fun facts. For the men, every elite contender from Los Angeles, except Glenn Race, has qualified more than once now. The rest of them, Chad Trammell, Ryan Atkins, Austin Azar, and Mark Jones, have all qualified a second time. For the women, Casey Northrup is the only elite contender from Atlanta to only qualify once. I say only. That's one more time than I've qualified. And I'm not taking anything away from Glenn or KC. They're both awesome. The other Atlanta ladies, Allison Tai, Sara Knight, Lindsay Webster, and Chikorita have all qualified more than once. Actually, they've each qualified 3 times, except for Lindsay, who's only qualified twice. But I'm sure she'll qualify at least one more time before this is all done. Speaking of bonuses from earlier, there is a $10,000 bonus up for grabs on the men's and the women's side based on the results of the entire series of Toughest Mudder. The man and woman with the most miles completed at their 3 best Toughest Mudder races will win the $10,000 bonus. The men's side is kind of convoluted right now because we don't have 3 super strong performances from any of the men yet. If the series ended today, Tyler Nash would be in first place and win the bonus. He finished 4th in Atlanta with 45 miles, and he also ran LA and Philly. Tyler would be first with 115 miles. Ryan Atkins is in second with 100 miles, and Chad Trammell is in third with 95 miles. Remember that Ryan and Chad got those numbers with just 2 races, so they'd be able to add their third race, their next strongest race from Whistler or Chicago, to that number. On the women's side, there's a much clearer picture. Allison Tai is in first place with 110 miles. Sara Knight is in second with 95 miles, and Chikorita is in third with 100 miles. Lindsay Webster has 85 miles, but again, that's only from 2 races. She'll be able to add the mileage from Whistler or from Chicago to that 85 to get her top 3 races. Even though I'm talking about first, second, and third here, remember that the bonus is only for the top man or the top woman. Arnold Banawa put together a 7-minute video recap of Toughest Mudder Philly. There's a link to the video at the World's Toughest Facebook page, World's Toughest Podcast Facebook page. When you watch the video, skip to 2 minutes and 33 seconds in and watch the light show. This is one of the coolest things about Toughest Mudder that you won't get at World's Toughest Mudder. At Toughest Mudder, unlike World's Toughest, the race starts at midnight. Everyone starts together at midnight. So everyone's already wearing headlamps. Everyone's already wearing a flashing strobe. So as long as you're not at the front of the pack, as the race begins, you'll see 500, 600, 700 of these little flashing strobes going off in front of you. Red, green, yellow, blue lights. It's amazing. It's kind of pretty. It's fun to watch. Unless you're prone to seizures, I guess. You guys should probably be at the front of the pack then. Before we get to the interviews, let's read some iTunes reviews. The Best Around, 5 stars, by Sammy's Wifey. Great show, great host. Keep it up. Ah, thanks. You're the best. Best source for WTM stories, 5 stars, by My Hot Wife and I. Every week, new information and new stories. Look forward to each new episode. Last review. World's Toughest Indeed, 5 stars, by OCR Joe. Will Hicks is a great host with no ego. He's completely comfortable giving his guests room to talk. Unlike other OCR podcasts that indulgently put the emphasis on the host, Will puts the racers and race series in the spotlight. A pleasure to listen to. Joe, thank you for that review. I appreciate what you said. First of all, it's not true because I've got plenty of ego for both you and me. But the second part is something that I actually do. I actively work toward on the show. Other than my mother, no one is listening to this show to hear me talk. I say that after talking straight for 25 minutes. They listen because they want to hear about Tough Mudder and World's Toughest. Or because they want to hear a specific guest. They want to hear what Allison Tai has to say, or Sara Knight, or Kris Mendoza. And that's fine. That helps me remember to keep the focus on those things and not on my opinions. No one really cares what I think, and that's fine. If you'd like to leave a review for the show, go to iTunes and search for Tough Mudder. Click on our logo or the first one that pops up. Click Write Review and type away. And then I may read it on the air. It'll take you literally 20 seconds. Unless you're watching YouTube at the same time. Then it'll take you an hour and you'll get distracted and you'll forget what you're doing anyway. So write the review first. Don't forget we're giving away shoes all year long. If you want to win the shoes that I am going to run Toughest Mudder Whistler in, not the actual shoes. You need your own pair, and I'm not giving you mine. Email worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com with Merrill in the subject line. And in the body, put 3 things. Put your name, your email address, and your phone number. And I will add you to the World's Toughest Podcast winners list. And then once a month between now and World's Toughest Mudder, we're going to select a winner to win a pair of the Merrill Agility Peak Flex trail running shoes. Great shoes. I ran Toughest Atlanta in them. They have replaced... I have a wall of shoes in my garage, and these are the only ones I'm wearing now. So, and you're a size 10 or 10 and a half, I got a pair of shoes for you. Not really. Stay out of my garage. Last thing, before we get to this week's Philly interviews, we talked with Kris Mendoza last week and Allison Tai a few weeks ago and today. If you're an elite runner, if you finish on the podium regularly and I haven't contacted you yet, I want you to know that you've got an open invitation. I just don't have enough time to contact everybody and get everyone on the show. But if you want to be on the show and you have finished top 3 at a World's Toughest Mudder or Toughest Mudder, I would love to talk to you. I'm already talking with some of you, trying to work out scheduling and get you on the show. But if I haven't contacted you yet, shoot me an email at willhicks@gmail.com and we'll set something up. Also, if you lasted all 24 hours at World's Toughest Mudder 2011, I would love to talk to you. There are 10 people, 2 women, 8 men, that lasted all 24 hours. One of them is a lady you may have heard of. Her name is Amelia Boone. John Young Pack won for the men. And then there's 8 other people that I would love to just hear the story about that year, 2011. Other people with an open invitation. Eli and Nolan from TMHQ, because they know what's really going on. Matt B. Davis from the Obstacle Racing Media Podcast, because we are friends-ish. Also, Jewel, the mailman from Cheers, and the host of the podcast, Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's. Let's go to the phones. Allison Tai, you won first place at Toughest Mudder Philly with 35 official miles.
Did. Yeah, it was awesome. It was such a fun time.
It looks like you were between miles 39 and 40 when the horn went off. Is that right?
Yeah, I kind of went out, and then the course was fairly, people were fairly sparse at that point. And a bunch of us got stuck in Loch Ness just helping each other out. And just kind of waiting for everybody to get out of there, because we just realized, if you're the last person in there, you're not going to get out by yourself. So I think I was probably in there for a little bit too long, and then crawled out and went, oh, darn, But so then I just kind of ran as far as I did, and then just kind of jogged it back in. So yeah, it was nice. It was maybe not the best way to finish the race in terms of nailing the 40 miles and then the big hurrah is coming across the finish line, but it was the way that the Tough Mudder should end, as kind of working together with whoever was left there on the course. And yeah, I was surprised the last lap they didn't close the obstacles. I thought that was the thing, but they kept them open right until that horn went.
They were open after 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I thought they closed down, but you know what? That's the thing about Tough Mudder. You can think all you want. But when it's game day, you just have no idea. And so I'm running, and I'm like, oh, maybe they close them down at 8, maybe 8:10, maybe 8:15. Nope, they're still open. So yeah, all the way until the end, all of the obstacles were open and going.
Well, congratulations on the win. How does it feel?
Really good. I mean, I had the awesomest pit crew extraordinaire, Gina Estrada, helping me, the whole way. So it was pretty awesome, coming in and just like kind of taking care of my every need, which was also like really, really good because my husband is normally out with me, but he had to stay home with kids this weekend. So without my family there, but with my mother family, and I just felt super supported, and I just, felt good pretty much all night. And, it's funny because whenever I started to kind of get into a groove where I was like, oh, it's cold or it's this or it's that, any sort of negativity, it would just be like this super positive mutter would pop up and just totally lift my spirits. So again, I was pretty lucky in that respect, just being surrounded by this marvelous community to push us to do just crazy, amazing things.
Is that pretty common? You're obviously one of the elite runners. Do you guys get that kind of down in the dumps feeling sometimes in the middle of the night like the rest of us do?
Oh, good gosh, yes. Yeah, I don't know if I'd consider myself way up there, but certainly like I always have those moments every time I run. And I think just having a background in this kind of ultra endurance sport, especially with OCRs, is I just know that it's coming. And I think that's the big difference between somebody that's done a lot of endurance races, is that we know that the suffering is going to come. And when it comes, it's like, oh, hi, you caught up with me at mile, 20 or whatever. And we know that it's going to fade and the high is going to come back. So I think it's just the experience with kind of riding that roller coaster and knowing that the bottom that you feel is just it's temporary and you're going to feel good again, So as crappy as you feel, it's got to get better,
You got second place at World's Toughest 2014 and then second place at Toughest Mudder Atlanta this year. How does it feel to finally break through and get the first place?
Yeah, it's funny. I've never gotten first place at a Tough Mudder event. I'm kind of always the bridesmaid. It was really awesome. Definitely really awesome. Not that, like at this kind of event when there's just so much talent out there, anywhere on the podium, I'm always happy with. And so, even when things got very close there, Chikorita, who's a ridiculously amazing athlete and just, fast and good at obstacles and just that perfect combination, was coming up on me and she was like 2 minutes behind me. I kind of thought in my head, second's okay. And then I'm like, no, I'm way too easy about settling. So I'm like, no. Like you got to keep running fast. So my big thing for this race was like, once that, because it's easy to run fast for a couple laps, but where it gets harder is later on. So I kind of in my head thought like, you got to keep running strong no matter what through the night. And the later hours, I just kind of tried to keep pressing on as best as I could. And until that final lap, that's kind of when I was like, okay, it's the old, I'll just go out for my little victory lap here and kind of soak it all up. So, but the rest of it, I really tried to like continue to prod on and not let the fatigue get to me and just kind of settle too much. So yeah, I think I did a really good job, like pushing this one. And so I feel a little bit better at it than the ones where you just kind of slowly peter out.
When did you take the lead?
The first lap. Yeah. I had the green bib. So, which I have never gotten. Yeah. I mean, Chikorita was in first, for the first bit of the first lap. She's fast. So she went out, and then I just kind of slowly started to pick up the pace and saw her and then passed her then. And then, I just kind of held it and she, came up kind of close behind me, like I was saying, about 2 minutes, but then she ended up getting really cold because that was the few laps. It ended up being quite cold before the sun came up. There's like just one period right before the sun came up where it was like, oh, but I could see the sun breaking, kind of on the horizon. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to put on more because I know I'm just going to get hot as soon as that sun pops up. So I just kind of tried to like keep moving, not stop after the water obstacles, and just get that heart rate and that blood flow right back up and just keep moving quick, right? Just to keep my body temperature up rather than stopping to pit and put more stuff on. And I feel like that worked.
Can you talk about that? Your strategy of moving to stay warm instead of stopping to put more stuff on?
Yeah, even like the last lap there, I was in block nest for a while. And when I got out, that was the coldest I was in the race. Like I couldn't even like move my arms kind of thing. Like I was just so stiff from sitting there in the water, not moving. And so I basically just tried to sprint just to get my body temperature back up. Because, as you know, you can be very, very cold. And, you step into a room and you're like, oh, it's freezing out here, or freezing in this room. And then you jump on a treadmill and 2 seconds later, you're trying to crack the window and turn on fans. So the body is enormously awesome at heating you up. But it's funny because it's just not your primal reaction. As soon as you get cold, you want to stop, and then you stiffen up and all the blood starts coming away from your, extremities. And it's not intuitive that you would want to run really fast. It's not something that your body's programmed to do. But if you just sprint it out for, don't sprint to the point where you're going to blow up, but just like pick up your pace a little bit, it really does wonders for just keeping you warm and not letting yourself stop long enough to get cold. So a lot of people, they'll get out of the water obstacle, like Arctic Enema or something like that, and it takes them a while to get going, and that just doesn't do anything for heating your body up. But it's the natural reaction to slow down, but it just makes it worse, right? It's then this downward spiral.
When did you know you had the race won?
You just never know in a race like this. Pretty much that last lap. Like when I had that last, I was just trying to work really, really hard until I was on that last lap. And I'm like, even if I don't finish this lap, I'll still have the race. So just go out there and jog it out on this one. But, up until the very end, I never knew if somebody was going to make a late surge or, what might happen. You don't, and it's kind of, it seems like it's so straightforward, but you don't really know where people are. Like, Chikorita was like 15 minutes behind me, and then she was like 2 minutes behind me, and then it's like, what? And you don't know, like, maybe her timing chip malfunctioned. And so it's showing her back there, and she's actually right behind me. So I think you just kind of got to keep working and focus on, it's cheesy, but keep focusing on your own race and staying as steady as you possibly can, because you just don't know what's going on behind you. And I mean, there's some big talent out there with like Chikorita, obviously, and Steph was out there not feeling great, but you never write her or Sara Knight, who is absolutely crazy and wonderful and did the UK, but is a very, very strong athlete and, could definitely pull off a double podium like this. And Morgan Mackay, who's great at the obstacles and with an obstacle dense course, there's just, you never know who's moving up behind you. So I think you just kind of gotta keep demanding your body goes forward as quickly and as efficiently as it can, and just stay focused right until the end. Because there is really no like races in the bags kind of situation, right? Not in a race like this.
Will we see you at Whistler or Chicago?
I'm in Vancouver, BC. That's my hometown. So I will definitely be in Whistler. It's going to be cold. I've seen some photos of the area, and there's a lot of snow. So definitely prepare for cold. That's my advice for you from a local. And I just booked my trip out to Chicago. So yeah, that. And then we always do our little World's Toughest Mudder Disneyland family trip. So I will also be there. I'm going to hit them all up.
Wait, World's Toughest Mudder Disneyland trip?
Yeah, my family, to make my kids like World's Toughest Mudder, and they love it. It works. We started going to Disneyland after, which last year was awesome after I broke my knee because I had to go around on crutches, but then they'd let me, or they'd rather push me into the quick pass line each time. So crutching around Disneyland, not so much fun, but we didn't have to wait in line, so that was all right. But yeah, we go to Disneyland after and hobble around for a few days, and the kids just love it, obviously. So it really brightens up the World's Toughest Mudder road trip if you're 6 or 3 years old.
Do you wear your headband in your bib?
You know what? I should this year. I'm going to do it.
Do you still have the gym opening on June 1st?
You know what? We bumped it back to July 1st because the border services has our flooring. So we don't have the rubber flooring yet to set it up. So now it's July 1st, which kind of sucks because it would have been really fun to have a big party there during the Whistler toughest week. But yeah, maybe we'll still figure something out though. Like if we have the gym partly open, maybe we'll just do like just a big community party, which would be really fun. We could do like barbecue or something, but yeah, we'll figure it out.
Any last thoughts on Toughest Mudder Philly?
No, I mean, it was just awesome. The volunteers, I mean, the last lap when I went by Augustus Gloop, they were like screaming like a rock concert, and I was getting tired, and it just like, it's amazing. That's better than a shot of Red Bull right there, just pick you up. There's Guy Scott at the top of hang time, which with my fear of jumping and height, is a tricky one for me. And he just, every time would lift my spirits every time I saw him. And, I had the awesomest pit crew and just the racers out there. So, yeah, just want to give the community some thanks. And I really appreciate everybody who helped me out there on course, physically or just, mentally, emotionally. And, I'm really excited for Whistler and then closing it down at Chicago.
Allison Tai, thanks so much. Kevin Given.
Hey, Will, good to talk to you.
Hey, tell me about Toughest Mudder Philly.
Oh, man, that was so much fun. I know people were talking about how cold it was and how tough the course was, and those are true, but it was a lot of fun.
Was this your first toughest event?
It was, other than, Worlds last year.
What did you think about the whole concept of the 8-hour race?
Actually, I've liked it since I first heard about it because I thought it would be such a great way to get people interested in coming to do Worlds, or at least let them see if it could be in their future.
How many miles did you get in Philly?
I went there with a goal of 5 laps, thinking that maybe I could squeeze out 6, but I settled for 5, and I'm thrilled with that.
What were the obstacles like?
It was kind of interesting to see how the course changed from the Tough Mudder that morning into the toughest that evening. But most of that would have been transition in the mud levels or the water levels. But all the obstacles, are normal things that you think of, other than, of course, the big King of Swingers hang time. That was a lot of fun. I know why people like that. It's challenging, but it's fun.
You ran Saturday morning also?
Well, we kind of went out and walked the course and had a good look at things. Tried to stay warm. It was kind of cool Saturday morning, but had a good look at, trying to see what the ground was like. Some places you go, it's kind of beaten up, and other places it's kind of beat down. This was nice grassy fields, off camber hills, up and down some steep hills. So it was good to know that going in, to make sure that you knew that you had good lights in your good batteries in your headlights, so you could see things. So you didn't want to step in a hole or a root or anything that you didn't know coming.
What was the weather like that night?
That was a big variable. Well, I can remember leaving the hotel at about 8 o'clock and driving over, and it was very pleasant. I mean, I don't know what the actual temperature was, but it was basically just T-shirt weather, and you get there and it's still pretty nice, and you're trying to figure out how not to overdress for this event. So I finally went with just a single layer of the 1mm frog skins top and bottom, and held off on anything else. But over that course, that first lap, that second lap, the temperature really dropped, and I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. At the end of the second lap, which would have been about 2:30 or 3 o'clock for me, I was starting to get a little chilly, so I put on that short wetsuit, and that's what I wore the rest of the time. I was good and comfortable, but I heard some people saying that they thought it dropped down to as low as 42 or 43, but there wasn't any wind, so that was good.
So you started in the 1mm top and bottom, and then you put on how thick was your shorty that you put on later?
Just a 2.3, and then of course I had like one of those little 1mm swim caps on, but I had to take that off for most of the first lap and the last lap because I was too hot. Nothing on my hands and just regular shoes and wool socks on my feet.
But you were warm enough with that on for a 40-degree-ish night?
Yeah, I never even really thought about it. I mean, you think it's going to be that cold, and you think you hit the water, but actually, I thought the water obstacles were kind of warm. Even Arctic Enema was warm. The water level wasn't real high in there, and they'd kind of covered everything over with plastic instead of it being open to the outside air. You slid down in there. It was almost kind of toasty. I mean, don't get me wrong. You wanted to get out, but there was no ice, and it was kind of like, hey, it's not bad in here at all.
Sure. What was your darkest moment out there?
I can't really say I had any. I had a good time. I had a good event. The whole time I was thinking that I've put in a lot of extra training this year in preparation of Worlds, and I really thought it was showing off at this event. I mean, it's like the work's in, and this is what I get from it. So I didn't really have a dark moon. I had a good time.
What was your best story from the event?
It'd probably be instead of one big story, I think it would be a collection of running into different people throughout the event, be it somebody I've never met before, and probably will never meet again, just stopping and talking to them as we are at an obstacle or running with, or maybe it was somebody from the community that everybody knows. I mean, I met Cassie, and I met, Team Four Eyes and so many others out there that just that collection of meeting all these great people, I take that away from it. That was so special to me. Especially the start of my last lap, I knew I had it on time if I didn't do anything stupid, and if I could get just a little bit of help, somewhere. And I look up, and there's Team Four Eyes not 100 yards up ahead of me, and I know if I can catch these guys, that'll be all the help I need over these first couple obstacles. And they were just so great to be around, so much fun, so helpful. I mean, you've had them on your this great podcast, and so these guys are awesome.
Kevin, anything else you want to talk about from Toughest Mudder Philly?
You've mentioned on your podcast a couple times for some hints or tips on a couple of obstacles.
Sure.
And I'll tell you one that I kind of lucked into, but it really made a lot of sense, and that is Kong. Kong in general, I love. I mean, I think it's a great obstacle, and I have no problem with it. But when you add in the water and the mud, it really comes down to, can you hold on to those rings? And when you've been at it for 8 hours, it's even harder. So what I found out on my last 2 laps was, instead of grabbing those rings with my hands, I would stick my arm through the ring to my elbow and then bend my arm. So it didn't require grip strength. It just required you to hold on with, essentially your arm and your elbow, and swing to the next one and stick your arm through the ring and rock yourself back and do it again. And actually, I flew right across the rings the last 2 trips, even though they were wet and muddy and people were sliding off.
You just kind of, instead of grabbing it with your hand, you just kind of poke your hand all the way through and put it in the crotch of your elbow?
Exactly. And then you just, as long as you've got one securely in one ring, you can bring your hand up to the one behind you if you need to rock back and forth to get a little momentum, which, if you lose momentum, you're messed up on that obstacle. But with one arm locked, you're solid.
It's a good tip. Thanks, Kevin.
So I really found that worked for me.
Kevin Given, thanks for taking the time. Chikorita, you finished 3rd place in Toughest Mudder Philly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
A bit beat up, but happy overall.
What did you think of the course?
It was awesome. It was pretty challenging. I've never done World Toughest Mudder, so I wasn't familiar with just that one loop with all the obstacles. So that was really something new to me, but it was fun, and it was very challenging, and it was cold and miserable, but fun all at once.
You haven't done World's Toughest Mudder, but you're not a stranger to Toughest Mudder.
No.
This is your 3rd Toughest Mudder, and you've done well at each one.
Yes. I would like to think that.
In LA, you finished tied for 5th place with April D. I saw you guys pass me several times through the night. You're running together all night long.
Yes.
How did that work out? Are you guys friends? Do you train together?
I met her back at 2013 at Mexico's first Beast Spartan race, I think. And from that on, we just kept in touch, and we have been friends ever since. So it was my first race. We both got lost in the first lap. And we just found each other through the way, and I told her she told me should we stick up together? And I was like, yeah, sounds good. I mean, it was my first race. She would show me how it's done, and it worked fine.
You guys both finished exactly at 8:30 and 0 seconds.
Yes.
How did you do that?
Finish together or finish just in cut-off
Right,
time?
literally 1 second later, and it wouldn't have qualified, or the last lap wouldn't have counted.
We got to the last, to the, what was 6th lap, I think, 6th lap, and the crew told us, you got time because you've been doing the laps, just in time to do it, but you can't stop. And I was like, okay. And we were going out, and I told her, April, we need to be like at mile 9 with 20 minutes to spare, or we're not going to do it. Because it was the second part of the loop, so it was like the mile still from the earlier course. Mm-hmm. So the 4th mile was marked as mile 9. So like, we're not there at 20 minutes, we're not going to make it. And then I just remember she was yelling at me that whole last lap because I was like really literally done. So literally that last lap was thanks to her.
You finished in 5th in Atlanta, and then 5th in LA, 3rd in Atlanta, and 3rd in Philly.
Yes.
How would you compare the 3 courses?
LA was pretty fun because there was a lot of hills. So mentally, like very steep hills, mentally it's sort of a break because you don't have to have like a constant pace overall because it actually does break your pacing. Atlanta was very hot. I think that was, it was flat, it was fast, but it was very hot. And Philly, it was just, I didn't expect it to get so chilly. And the fact that we were doing like 17 obstacles, I think, in 5 miles, but also slowed us down because it was like a lot of water obstacles, and I had my hands numb at a time. I'm pretty sure a lot other competitors did as well. Allison Tai also told me she was like failing obstacles she normally doesn't fail, and so was I. And it was different. It was really fun because I think it really pushed us.
Which one was the hardest, do you think?
So far, Philly.
Just back to Philly, what did you think of the obstacle layout? There were a lot more, as you said, in Philly than the other 2 courses.
Yeah, there were a lot more obstacles, and it was like tricky because you would get in the water, and after one obstacle that had water, you would go like into an obstacle that required grip. So if the water was too cold, your hands would go numb, and the obstacle was already all wet because of people that had already gone through it. So it was challenging. I don't remember much from lap 3 to 6, but the things I do remember, it was like, I don't know, it was like, I just like, I don't know, passed Loch Ness Monster, and the water was pretty chilly there. Like, okay, there's no problem here. And then an obstacle along would come, and you would need grip strength, and I wouldn't have any. And yeah, it was that kind of challenge. Like, they really wanted us to, I don't know, to push us through to something more extreme or something, and the weather helped them. It's like they made the dance of the rain or something to make it chilly, and it worked. But yeah, overall, it was fun because I know a lot of people were suffering and stuff, but you still saw them out there pushing themselves to whatever they had got. So that's fun to see.
How did the start of the race go for you? How fast did you come out?
I try to go out fast because, well, that's like my sort of thingy. I went out fast, and then I got caught up by Allison Tai towards the end, maybe like 1 mile to go. On the first lap, I was feeling good on that lap. I was feeling like I could hold that pace. I was feeling warm because I had like my wetsuit jacket on, so I took it off. And then laps 2 and 3, I got very, very cold, and my pace started dropping. Around lap 4 or 5, I remember I knew my body was going to start to shut down. And at the moment, I was second, and the girl in third was like 10 minutes behind, but I knew she was going to catch me if I didn't like continue going on. And I just like kept pushing. I mean, I knew it was going to have everything I got to hold on to the podium spot, and it happened. I mean, till the very last lap, I was fighting like till the very end with Morgan, and I was saved by the bell literally because she didn't make it on time to the finish line to pass me in that last lap. It was a total sufferfest, but I did enjoy it.
Tell me about that last lap.
I got passed by Zoe starting that lap, and I knew I was going to catch her. I caught up to her at the mud mile, and we were there together, and we were like, how are we going to get out of this alone? Because it was just the 2 of us. And then another fellow mother came along, and he helped us get through. But she got to the Loch Ness Monster first, and after that she went on because I had like to wait to be able to get through it. And I never saw her again. And then I literally just like couldn't keep on like running, and my body was like, oh, enough. And I just like kept like power walking and then like, okay, run a bit and then like walk a bit and then run a bit. And then I saw Morgan. We were, I think, at balls to the wall when I saw her. And I was like, oh my God, she's going to make me fight till the very end, just like to make it to podium. And yes, it was. I mean, till the very end, she got ahead of me, and I saw my clock when we were in, I don't know, maybe 1 mile to go, and I was like, okay, I don't think she's going to make it unless she totally sprints for it, because I was like totally out. I was like, okay, just keep going. And I asked the volunteer, like, what time is it? And he said, like, 4 more minutes to go, and it's over. And I was like, no, she's not going to make it. And I was like, oh, the only thing I can do now is just like hope she doesn't cross the finish line, because I didn't have any more gas to do it. And she was like closing very strong. And yeah, she fell short by very few. I mean, she did an awesome last lap. I'm actually thankful, because it could be like a really miserable last lap, like just going and trying to get to the finish line. But having her pushing me to fight to secure a podium spot was really like painful, but I'm very, very grateful for that, because it made it a lot more interesting, and it actually made me like give it everything I had.
What do you think of the toughest series in general, the 8-hour races?
It's been pretty fun. I mean, I've never done anything like that, and if you told me like, are you gonna do World Toughest Mother, I would never think about doing it if I hadn't tried this first. So I think it's like a good first step to try to start getting a feeling of what might you expect. I mean, I know it's a lot longer, because 24 hours isn't the same as 8, but I think it allows people that maybe are on the fence of trying it or not, to get a taste of what it is like.
Are you planning on World's Toughest this year?
Yes.
Will we see you in Whistler or Chicago?
Chicago.
When you were talking about the middle of the night, the 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., mentally, do you ever go to like a dark place during those lonely hours?
Well, if I sort of do when it's shorter races. and longer races, I don't go into really like dark places, but this time the cold was like really getting to me, so I was just like fighting not to like totally shut down. So I just remember like I told myself like keep pushing, because every time I got to the pit stop I could like eat something, or at least feel like safer there if something happened. But I think maybe if there weren't like so many people in the course and stuff like that, it would be like mentally devastating. But having people out there, like having like the community, Tough Mudder community over there, helps a lot to get through it and not feel like you're losing your mind totally.
Chikorita, do you have any last minute thoughts on Toughest Mudder Philly?
I read a comment somewhere that someone said she didn't know if she was gonna go back to try another toughest, because she was cold and miserable and stuff. And if anyone thinks that, you should definitely give it another try, because I swear that that's what makes you stronger. Like when you come back after something that was very miserable, and this is what gets us like to be better.
Chikorita, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kevin Gregory, how was Toughest Mudder Philly?
It was amazing. It was, I'd say, the best race, most fun and challenging race I've run all year. Run several races. I won't name any names.
Why was it the most fun?
Well, like I've done World Toughest, so obviously I have some experience in this type of like sort of race. But the atmosphere, I love getting together with these people. The Tough Mudder community and the World Toughest people too. And you know, it's like I didn't make it to the first few, and just listening to all the podcasts and hearing their accounts and stuff, I just came into this with a lot of excitement. But the setup was great. Having seen all these obstacles at Worlds made it a little less of a shock when I had to get there and figure out what to do. But the modifications were really cool, and just like the overall production. There wasn't anything that I was like, oh, this should really be done better, or whatever. Like when they send you the survey and you just want to badmouth something or hit them for messing up parking or something like that. So overall, just great experience.
How many miles did you get?
Got 30.
Nice.
I finished with about 48 minutes on the clock, and I knew I couldn't run 5 more miles in 48 minutes because I didn't even do that in the sprint lap, so I settled on that.
5 miles in 48 minutes on one of those courses is like Atkins level of speed.
Yeah, and since I beat him in this race, I still don't think I had it, but that was my mantra for the race. I'm like, everyone's like, "How you feeling?" I'm like, "I feel great. I already beat Ryan Atkins." So I wish he gets better, but it was a good joke for the whole night and kept everyone's spirits up.
What were the obstacles like?
Very similar to what the other ones, according to the accounts I've heard. Mud Mile wasn't as bad as the Atlanta Mud Mile, thank God. That's my least favorite obstacle. And I'm pretty tall, so I can do everything by myself usually. And I love helping people, but I think it's a grind. It just takes so much energy out of you. So other than that, the hang time, King of the Swingers obstacle, I was looking forward to that one because I did pretty well with Double Rainbow, but I've had trouble with King of the Swingers in the past. So I wanted to try with the cargo net, and I had that was my favorite obstacle the whole night. I got it every time, and I had to come up with some adjustments when my grip strength started wearing out, but didn't fall off. Operation was a little different. I've never done it, not in Vegas, so I wasn't on like that cement platform with the wires hanging and stuff. That weird place in the middle of the desert.
Right.
But that was Funky Monkey. That was a good time. My last lap, actually, I got there with Trevor, and he fell off, and I didn't, so that was really exciting.
That feels good.
Better than the winner. Yeah. I remember my reaction was I beat Trevor, and I got really excited, and the volunteers, they enjoyed my excitement about that, too.
What was the terrain like, the course?
The terrain, it was well worn down, I guess, from the Saturday heats. The downhills, I noticed right away on the sprint lap where they weren't sketchy at all, where sometimes you're running downhill and you're like not sure of your footing. This was like very flat. I mean, there were some rocks and some roots or whatever, but overall it wasn't like, I wasn't worried at all about rolling an ankle, and I guess I heard a couple of people did, but like I was like flying down those things just to make up time and trying to walk the uphills. The hills weren't so steep. Like if you could run all of them if you wanted to, but I just try to keep stay efficient, I guess. Try to run for the 8 hours, not for that lap. And there was like it was well marked. There wasn't any time where I got off track. I kept getting confused because people would come out of the penalty loops and I'm like, where the hell did you come from? And they're like, oh, I failed that. Like, oh, wow, this puts you on all the way over here. And but otherwise, like, I knew where I was going. The arrows were placed well, and it was a well-marked course. Pretty good terrain to run.
How was the weather?
For me, I loved it. Like, I was standing in line in a T-shirt at registration. I started getting a little chilly as we were standing around. I got to registration well before it opened. And I started getting a little chilly as time went on, but like I was like definitely starting in shorts, or I wore leggings, but they're very light. They weren't thick at all, and short sleeves. And I knew, like, I'd done a lot of training runs at night, and I know it always seems chilly when you start, but you start moving, your body temp goes up. And like this temperature, it worked perfect for me. I threw on a windbreaker after my third lap, I think. And then that's all I wore. I didn't ever think about wearing a wetsuit. I didn't wear gloves. I didn't wear a hat. I think I could have stayed out of a windbreaker one more lap if I had a hat, but I didn't even consider that at the time.
So you started in shorts and a T-shirt, and you put on a windbreaker after lap 2 or lap 3?
Yeah, after lap 3. And I was fine with that. I never got cold. I never got chilled. Even coming out of Arctic Enema, like, I thought they were messed up. They were that was pretty mean of them to put Funky Monkey right after Arctic Enema. I can't feel my hands. All right, do this monkey bar thing.
I heard Funky Monkey.
I remember
was
thinking that every time.
It was 500 feet past Arctic Enema. Like you do Arctic Enema, then immediately Funky Monkey.
Yeah, you couldn't see it from Arctic Enema because the way the terrain, you came around a bend and then something, and then all of a sudden you're coming down into Funky Monkey and like, shit! They didn't have any time to warm up. But that was nice of them. It was funny.
Well,
you jerk.
What was your darkest moment out there?
I was pretty surprised. I didn't get into any of those really dark places like I have at Worlds. I never got really shaky or anything. My game plan was keep moving, and I did a pretty good job of that. Even when I switched to a windbreaker, I was a little chilly, but my forearms started to get cold. I just didn't want to go through a lap not being able to feel my hands. But I think darkest, that wasn't very dark. My gray is, I failed Funky Monkey on my 5th lap, and I was pissed because the time before, I just made it, I felt like, and the time before that, I just made it, but I just got overextended on lap 5, and I had one hand on each wheel, and I didn't have anything in my grip to swing or get some momentum to get to the pipe, to just being 2 feet away from landing. And then the penalty for Funky Monkey sucked. It was straight uphill. There was more elevation, it seemed like, than the whole rest of the race. There was no running that, at least for me. So I guess that was the darkest time for me.
What was your best story from Toughest Philly?
Not really any one thing. I just try to go out and read the names on the back of all the bibs and make jokes about everybody and hope that they laugh. And if they do, then continue bantering with them. And if they don't, then move on to somebody else. And that's what the fun of the community is. And even when Trevor passed me, I forget what I said to him, but Austin passed me right after that at about 4:00, and we chatted for a little bit. And I've known Austin a little longer, so we had some good jokes, and then he took off. But I think just the whole experience and meeting new people and running with them, and there wasn't really one really big highlight. Maybe the Trevor thing when I beat him at Funky Monkey, but the Atkins joke that was constantly dropping.
Are you going to Vegas this year?
So, yeah, definitely. I signed up the second I got back from last year, and I bought the package with the toughest. So that way I definitely would do one toughest, and then they started telling us about the Holy Grail and all this other stuff. So I'm going to do tougher Buffalo, and I have a wedding there that day, so it works out perfectly. I'm like, shit, I don't have to miss the race now. But I'll definitely be in Vegas. I'm really excited. This is my 4th year going. I started my first year as a sandstorm year, so everything pales in comparison to dealing with that.
Kevin Gregory, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Also known as Bubbles the Clown. Thanks for having me on, Will.
Sara Knight, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem.
You are one of a handful of people running all 6 toughest mutters. Why did you choose to do that?
Well, once it was announced, I pretty much just wiped any ideas of what my race schedule was going to be and be like, oh, there's my race schedule. It was pretty evenly spaced, almost once per month, but minus the UK and Philly races. But yeah, I knew it was going to be fun and awesome.
Are you still on track to do Whistler in Chicago?
Yes. Yeah, I've paid for lodging at Whistler and the race itself, and that's just a couple-hour drive from my place, so no airplane involved, which is really nice.
What do you think of the whole toughest mutter 8-hour concept?
It's been the most exciting type of race so far. Obviously, love World's Toughest Mutter, and we look forward to it every year, but so it's that same taste of that kind of race, but faster and more intense, almost harder at points because you're having to really push the pace.
Do you think the toughest mutter can be tougher than World's Toughest?
In a sense, at times, yeah, toughest mutter can be tougher. just because, you definitely have to be a little bit faster, and they're trying to throw, obstacles at us multiple times and elevation that's crazy and et cetera. Every race seems to be a little bit different of a surprise. I mean, World's Toughest obviously is just a grind, but Toughest is just kind of going with the flow of things and being quick on your feet, literally.
I worry that Tough Mudder headquarters sees you guys putting up 35 or 40 miles in 8 hours, and they start thinking, oh, see, they could do 120 miles if they wanted to.
Yeah. No, I feel like they're thinking that. And hopefully those mileage goals don't change. I don't think they will. But, I'd love to hit 100, but shoot, just getting to 35, 40 miles is tough. I mean, you don't want to run any more after that. It's just after that 8 miles, you can't even think of doing 2 more, or not 8 miles, but 8 hours. You can't even think of doing that twice over.
So far, you've run LA, Atlanta, Europe, and Philly. Which one do you think was the hardest?
The hardest was definitely UK. Definitely, I appreciated the elevation in LA, and Georgia was all about double obstacles and everything, but UK had something that like everything else didn't. The weather, number one, it was the coldest of all of them and rained a lot more. Philly got down there, but I think the thing with Philly was people get a little bit warmer, whereas in the UK, everyone was expecting it to be cold. So everyone battled it out a little bit harder, but it was definitely rough. And then, so all the obstacles were slippery, and the penalty loops, I feel like were the longest out of all of them.
In the UK?
And then in the UK. And then just the terrain itself, man, my ankles are still swollen from that race, but it doesn't help that I ran on them again last weekend or in Philly. But just like clumps of grass, and then like super like suction like mud, and the grade of it, most things, like you're running on an angle, so just one side got hit a lot harder than the others. So yeah, it's just terrain plus weather plus obstacles felt a little trickier in the rain. Everything was super slick.
Someone told me that you weren't running uphill so much, but you were running across the hill. So like your right foot would be taking a beating and your left foot was doing no work at all.
Exactly, yeah, and it was a lot tougher. Shoot, lap 4, lap 5, you started to realize, oh, okay, this grade of hill needs to stop now. You almost wanted to start running backwards.
Which one was the most fun?
Most fun, well, probably LA, but I think that's just mostly because it was the first one, so it's all that excitement and just ready for it. And I like the multi-loop format. In Europe, it was tough doing the same thing over and over again, and in Philly, I didn't do it as many times because I just kind of used that as a fun run, not necessarily a competitive run. But just LA just kind of brings some strategy into it too with the multi-loop format. So I don't know. Yeah, I think I had most fun there.
They changed that. The first 2 races had 2 different 5-mile loops, and you switched halfway through. In Europe and Philly, it was 1 5-mile loop that you were on the entire 8 hours.
Right. Which, that also makes it tougher, too, because you're doing twice as many obstacles per loop that way.
And they increased the number of obstacles per loop, you're right.
Yeah. So that makes everything slower, harder to get mileage. So for the contenders and everything like that, like people trying to get 25 miles or, men's trying to get like 50 miles, it's like way more difficult.
At the first 3 races, you finished 2nd, 5th, and 2nd. At Toughest Philly, you finished with 15 miles, far from the podium. What was the difference?
Mm-hmm. Oh, my body was super drained from UK. I would have loved to start competing, but mile one, I already felt like my ankles and my knees like starting to yell at me. So I want to be competitive for Whistler. And so I didn't want to take myself completely out of the season by just destroying my body with back-to-back races. So I just kind of used it as just a fun run, and I went out there, and every loop I had a goal of helping 100 mudders out. So whether it be over the mud mile or over walls, on Everest, etc. So that last loop was hard to find 100 mudders, so everyone was kind of pretty much done.
So you spent the full 8 hours basically just helping people over obstacles.
Yep.
You can get a patch for that now, you know.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No.
There's some guy on the World's Toughest Mudder Facebook group that has made some patches, and it's got a 100 on it. They do it at Everest at their Tough Mudders, and they help 100 people up Everest every time. And then they're encouraging other people to do
Everest.
it.
Okay.
Well, they're encouraging people to do it at any obstacle, at Berlin Walls or at Loch Ness Monster, or Everest is probably the hardest one to do it. It'd be tough on your shoulders, but
yeah, right. Yeah, well, I did it like 100 collectively per lap, so I'm not sure how many per obstacle I did, but I guess that would be something to look into. Maybe if they have back-to-back weekends next year, I'll do that again.
Do you think Tough Mudder should have spaced out Europe and Philly more than 1 week?
Yeah, I would love that. They don't have anything in July, so it would have been beneficial to move one of them to that month. That would have been great. But, I'm happy I'm able to make it to all of them at least, to experience them all.
Do you think you can get that top 5 streak going again in Whistler?
Yes, that is my plan. I want to be up on that top 3 podium, that's for sure.
So last week when you ran Toughest Mudder Europe, it was at a castle. What was that experience like?
That was pretty cool. So I, minus Canada, have never been out of the U.S., so just going over there, I went full bore. I rented a right-hand side car that was manual and drove like from southern England all the way up there. So it's like a 3-hour drive. And went to a bed and breakfast, so experienced, like quote-unquote real life there. And so that was pretty fun, pretty awesome. And then getting to the actual race site, that castle is just huge. We didn't really get to run close to it, but just the scenery around it and all the castle grounds were just really like plush. It was really cool.
What were some differences between a Tough Mudder in Europe versus a Tough Mudder in the U.S.?
Differences, the obstacles, were mostly similar. Hang time / King of the Swingers was, they used a horizontal loop of rope instead of a cargo net. So my strategy was a little bit different on that obstacle, like going and swinging on the trapeze bar, and then I usually just catch the cargo net with my other hand, but it was actually a lot easier just to kick out my feet on the loop of rope on this one. So it's a little bit different technique, and it's kind of more fun. I like that one. And then, oh my goodness, black hole / birth canal was just ridiculous. So usually, you're going under like those tubes of water, and you're just like, I can stay on my knees and just kind of blast through each one as they go horizontally by. But this one, you're literally going like with the water, and just it's crushing you down to like, I feel you have maybe like 5 inches, so only enough for your body. You're on your chest trying to like swim through this thing, or I even like went on my back and tried to push myself backwards. It was tough and draining and took forever, felt like. And they sent you through both ways, so birth canal and black hole. So that was tough. But so that was the differences in obstacles, at least. But just the atmosphere kind of was kind of cool. I felt everyone was really grinding it out. It felt like a faster race. Everyone was really toughing the weather out, and super helpful. Here versus there, everyone's helping out. So that felt the same. That felt like home.
Yeah, what was the community like? Is there any difference between the U.S. and UK, or is it still the Tough Mudder kind of ethos?
Yeah, it feels exactly the same. I couldn't tell any difference. Everyone's helpful. Everyone wants to help each other out. Noticed maybe a little bit we have more experience, I guess. So when it comes to things like blockness, my first couple laps, I noticed like I almost had to tell people, oh, okay, I'm going to go over and then we'll pull this thing over, et cetera. And so we had to work it out to get the thing rolling. Mm-hmm. And blockness is heavier over there too. It's super long. So you actually had to get like 6 people or so to get that thing really moving versus like 2 or 3 can get it going over here. So I think, since they don't have probably as many Tough Mudders to go to, people don't travel to them or whatnot over there as much. I suspect that's the case.
You finished in second place to Suzanne Kraus. You both had 35 miles, but she finished 11 minutes ahead of you. After 8.5 hours, how did it feel so close to be? How did it feel to be so close to first place?
Oh man! Well, I didn't know until at the last mile, I could hear her name being announced as she was crossing the finish line, and I'm like, oh my goodness! I didn't realize I was so close. On the second to last lap, Suzanne wasn't in my mind, but I was crossing almost to the finish line area, and a girl in the electroshock therapy area noticed my leaderboard or my leader bib, and she's like, "Oh, what lap are you on?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just finishing off my 6th," and she's like, "Oh, I am too," and so I'm like, "What?" Because I didn't see her up on the leaderboard at all, and apparently she was on the men's side, so they Tough Mudder headquarters thought that, or somehow she got on the men's side, and so she was never in my mind as being competitive.
That was Suzanne talking to you.
No, not Suzanne. Eureka, or I forgot how to pronounce her name. Okay.
Eureka Evanson.
Yes. So it was her first Tough Mudder or toughest or something like that. So I'd never seen her. Yeah, she's like, "Oh, I'm on my 6th too," and so instantaneously, I'm just like, "Oh, okay, I'll see you around," and just start booking it. That last lap, I'm like, I gotta make a gap. Who is this person? Is she really on 6 laps the same as me? So, I just kind of, that last lap was it wasn't a sprint, but it felt like one. And now that I know I had that extra reserve, I wish I knew how close I was getting to Suzanne. If I had another, half hour or so, I felt like I probably could have won that thing.
Phoebe Breimer from ORM said that you were speeding up as the race was ending, and she thought you could have caught her if you had more time.
I think so. I mean, that race, I definitely felt my best endurance-wise. I mean, my joints were hurting, but I felt like my engine could have kept going at that pace for a little bit longer. So I know now that I can go a little bit faster pace for next time.
So your 3 best finishes this year are second, and 5th place. What will it take to break through and win first place?
Well, I think I've experienced all the toughest part of the toughest mudders. So, experienced elevation. I've experienced on the Georgia race upset tummy issues, and then on Europe's race experienced conditions, and then like joint pain. So I know mentally I can grit anything out. So just having a healthy body, and now that my nutrition's on point coming into Whistler, I think I can make it happen.
What are your plans for World's Toughest this year?
World's Toughest, I'm going individual. I would love to see the 100-mile be broke. I don't care if it's me or anybody else. That's just, I would love to be, the person to make that happen. or to push someone to make that happen. Just kind of an exciting year to see what everyone's limits can be. So, yeah.
Sara Knight, any last-minute thoughts on Toughest Mudder?
Toughest Mudder is awesome! And I can't wait for the next one. Yay!
Thanks, Sara.
All right, no problem.
Jordan McDougall, you won second place at Toughest Mudder Philly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This was your first Toughest Mudder, but you've done several OCRs before.
Yeah, I kind of got into OCRs a couple years ago and done a few of the shorter ones. This is my first experience going long.
What did you think of the whole Toughest Mudder experience?
It was pretty awesome. I really liked the setup, great obstacles, really great community, which is something I can say pretty much for all of OCR in general. It's really just a good community, but definitely, the nature of a lot of the obstacles, it was pretty cool.
I was looking up, when I saw you won second place, I was looking you up online, and it looks like your background is more in ultra-marathon distances. Is that true?
Yeah. Track, cross country, started young in that. And then after college, I kind of took a couple years off. And then when I got back into athletics, it was in ultra running. So yeah, ultra and mountain running is what I did for several years. Pretty much up until 2013, 2014. And then I kind of got into the OCRs, but really haven't since that point really put in any real focused training for anything specific.
Do you think your success this weekend is going to lead to more?
Possibly. There's a chance. I definitely feel pretty good about how I did out there, and I definitely see a lot of room for improvement, just in the way I approach things out there, especially. So I definitely think there's more I can do there. For sure. You
did 40 miles in Philly. What's your favorite distance, or do you have a sweet spot for how far you like to compete at?
I don't really know. It's kind of varied from race to race. When I was doing the ultra mountain running, I did really well at 50-mile races, but I would say probably my favorite, I really like that 25K to 30K, kind of an odd distance, but there's several mountain races in that area. And as far as mountain races went, that was kind of my sweet spot of what I liked to do. You could do it and then be fine the next day. So
you could do the 25 to 30K and be fine the next day?
Yeah. 50 mile, you're a little sore the next day, hobbling around for a couple days.
Yeah, I can see that.
Takes a little more out of you.
What were your goals going into the race? Were you shooting for the podium?
Yeah, I was shooting for the podium. A bunch of these guys I hadn't raced yet. I knew who some of them were. Really, I was going for the win, and I wanted to hit 50 miles. Course was definitely a little tougher than I had expected, and I realized about halfway through that. And at that point, I felt like I was running really strong, and I was kind of doing the math in my head, and I was like, yeah, 50 miles probably not going to be possible out here tonight.
How was the start of the race for you?
Start was good. There was a lot of people there. I was surprised, but I got out. I was running with kind of a pack right at the front for that first lap, and obstacles were closed, so it was kind of just easy running. So yeah, I got right out front from the start and just kind of hung there.
You led for most of the race, or for a while at least. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting, from what I'd seen from the past few races on that Toughest Mudder series, to have a bunch of people going out fast. So my plan was just to kind of settle into kind of that rhythm that I would have run, say, if it were a 50-mile race, like one of those ultras I used to run, just kind of find that rhythm. And that's what I did. And I was kind of a little surprised to be out front that early. I was expecting that if I kept that rhythm by probably 4 to 6 hours, I would probably be out front. But I was a little surprised to be alone out front that early. But I was comfortable in my running pace, and I didn't want to slow down just to be with people at that point. Because again, I felt really comfortable, so I just kind of hung with where I was going at that moment.
Trevor Cichosz ended up finishing in first place. When did he take the lead?
He passed me on Everest on that last lap, and then he pulled me over because I was falling apart at that point. So he passed me, pulled me over, and then took off.
He passed you out the wall, then helped you get up the wall behind him?
Yeah, he passed me at the wall, helped me over the top of the wall, and then I stayed somewhat close to him for a little bit after that, but my legs were pretty much done at that point. I still felt like I had good energy, but I was just beat up, I guess.
How did you feel at the finish line?
I mean, I felt good. At that point, I'd kind of settled with the fact that Trevor had passed me, and I was happy to stay ahead of Austin. I knew he couldn't be that far behind me. So when I hit that finish line and Austin wasn't in sight yet, I kind of knew at that point that I had held on to second. They were pretty close to closing the course at that point, and it was taking about an hour to finish the lap. So when I hit that finish line that last time, I was pretty secure that I'd come in second. It felt pretty good.
Will we see you at Whistler or Chicago?
We'll see. Not Whistler. I won't be making it out there. Chicago, there might be a small possibility. Probably gearing a little more towards next year as far as this series goes. This was last minute for me. I signed up the week before. I did one long run earlier this season, kind of with Toughest Mudder in mind, and that went well. So that's what kind of caused me to jump into this race. But as far as specific training went, I really didn't do, a whole bunch of training for this race. Really just kind of, I'm going to hop out and do a long run and see how it goes. And if it goes well, I might hop into one of these races. So Chicago's far enough off that if training goes well and I can, get some longer training in, that it's a possibility. But more than likely, if I'm going to really do something on the series, it'll probably be next year.
What about World's Toughest 2017?
No, after 8 hours. 8 hours was tough. 24 hours, I'm not sure I'm quite up. It's definitely on my radar. It's definitely something I'd like to do. I'm not sure 2017 is going to be the year for me to pull that off. Just as far as time constraints with work and got 2 little kids. So, as far as, the time to put in the training for an event like that, it's hard to find that time right now. So,
Jordan, any last thoughts?
Probably not this year. Say again?
Any last thoughts on Toughest Mudder Philly?
I mean, it was just an awesome event. I was really pumped to get out there to compete. Overall, it went really well. Definitely a huge learning experience for me. And, I can't wait to get out there and do another one. I definitely think I need to get some more specific training for an event like that before I go out and tackle one again. But I will be back at a Toughest event some point within the next couple of years.
Jordan McDougall, thanks much.
Hello.
Stefanie Bishop.
Yes. Hey, what's up?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? My melatonin may be kicking in.
Your what now? Your adrenaline?
My melatonin, my sleeping, every night, so I sleep really deep because right now, sleep is everything to me. It's the biggest part of my recovery is sleep.
Sure.
So that's how come I'm super anal about getting to bed at a certain time.
Tell me about that. Your sleep is your most important part of your recovery process?
It's sleep is always a huge part of it, but now more than ever, I have to be super careful that I'm getting enough sleep. And when I say enough, it's like 10 hours a night, almost some nights. It's a lot. It's a lot more than, I normally sleep 9 hours a night. And then if I have time, which I don't have much time recently, is I would usually normally get like an hour nap, 30 minutes to an hour nap every single day. But I just don't have the time for it. So I just have to schedule in a lot more sleep, like from, night to day in order to get it in.
What time do you usually go to bed?
I'm usually in my bed before 8 p.m.
And you wake up at?
And I don't fall asleep until usually I like read or something. So it's like 9 p.m. is like phone's off. The phone is on airplane mode. And then that allows me to get up at like, 5:45, 6. And then it takes me about an hour to get all my like PT and warm up stuff before I could even think about setting my foot outside.
And then you work out first thing in the morning?
Yeah, always. I mean, not all, like there are sometimes like I haven't, but it's really difficult. Like it's like I have to work out in the morning because it's so difficult once I get caught up. If I like have like, my work schedule is very uneven. So if I have like a lot of work to do for some reason, if I don't get it in the morning, it just like, it's always looming over me and it bothers me a lot.
Well, let me ask you a toughest mutter and then I can send you off to bed.
Yes. Yeah, no problem. Is this okay on the phone for you?
Yeah.
Or?
Sounds great.
Okay. Awesome.
So you've run 2 toughest mutters so far. You ran in Atlanta and you ran in Philly. What do you think about toughest mutter what do you think about toughest mutter on the whole?
Well, I didn't unfortunately get to run more than 2 laps in Philly. So, and I was in pain like come 4 miles into the whole event. So I was in a whole different state. But honestly, I think the event is really evolving very quickly. I mean, if you just look at the participation numbers, I went to the LA race. It's unbelievable in 2 short months how this has already grown. It's becoming more difficult as the season goes on. Way more competitive, not just from like, a competition standpoint. You see, so many more people are now coming out to this, and we're hearing of names that we've never heard of before, or maybe we've heard of here and there. And the race itself has gotten a lot more difficult. This format that they've taken on now, and they applied to, I think they use pretty much the same format in the UK from what I gather, and they used it in Philly, is tough. That's like a world's toughest mutter course, in my opinion. I mean, it was a few obstacles short of a world's toughest mutter course.
I think they had 17 obstacles on one 5-mile loop for Philly and the UK.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, they had everything open. I think it was like 2 a.m. But I remember like things were opening up like, I think like 1:30, King of Swingers was opening up. I mean, and not to mention, the way that they set up the course. You had Arctic Enema before Funky Monkey, and, King of Swingers, you were sopping wet pretty much. I mean, it was amazing to me to see, especially like some of these guys with these such great grip strength, like, not be able to complete these obstacles in the middle of the night. And it was unbelievable. It was fun though. It was such a great race. I was so happy that I was actually be able to like get out there and really just be a part of it. Because I didn't get that opportunity in Atlanta, unfortunately.
You mentioned that in Atlanta, you only finished 2 laps. Were you having health problems?
Yeah, no, I've been dealing with health problems over the past, since March or so. And it's just like my whole digestive system has just been an absolute train wreck. And I've seen a specialist and had some tests done and stuff. And we're right now like figuring out like the game plan, like what I need to be doing, what changes I need to be making to my diet. I've cut my training literally by 60%. I mean, it's like I've been running 25-mile weeks. So for me to go out and run, I think it was like 28.5 miles on Saturday night. That was more miles than I put in on a weekly basis right now.
You finished just outside of the elite contender qualifiers in Philly with 25 miles.
Oh yeah, I know that, but I stopped. I mean, I went out there, and my goal was by no means. I had zero. The hardest thing for me out there was actually taking myself out of competition from the get-go and just going out there. For me, it was a test run. For me, it was to test that my body was, that I could start to slowly increase a little bit in my training without taking, 20 steps backwards. Sure. So I went out there from the get-go being like, I'm going to run between 25 and 30 miles, and I will not run a mile more. And I took extra long pits. I took time to try to adjust certain things, to pay very close attention to how my stomach was feeling. So I didn't, have any problems. After Atlanta, I was sidelined for days. It was horrible. So for me, it was a little difficult. I think the hardest part for me was telling myself, you are not competing, you are not competing, you are not competing. Don't pay attention to what's happening in the competition. So, I stopped and talked to people on the course. I tried to do whatever I could to just keep me slowed down so I wouldn't have to, because I knew if I was in a top 4 position or something, I would definitely be out there still running. And that's a big problem I have, is to hold back. So, but I'm happy. E-Rock was my pit crew, and he was freaking amazing. He kept me so on point, and everybody else out there, who was I'm going to kick your ass if I see you still running past, what you said you were going to run. So, I'm not thinking about that at this moment. I wasn't. Now maybe I'm thinking about it.
As far as a test run, how did it go for you?
Not bad. I'm actually really satisfied. I think that, my legs felt great. Considering I have not been putting on miles that I normally would be putting on them already. Normally at this point in the season, I'd be easily over 50 miles in a week, plus other stuff, everything else. So, for me to go out there and to log my biggest mileage week, and I don't even know how long it's been, and not to be sore afterwards. I'm sore, but I'm not that crippling sore, when you get after a race sometimes. I was out training today. I took a serious day off yesterday. I just kind of slept and hung around and ate and relaxed. So, I'm really happy with the fact that I feel this good and that I was able to complete that mileage and still feel this good. So it was a success.
Are you planning to run Whistler or Chicago?
Yeah, well, I will be at both of them because I'm going to be doing some cool stuff with Tough Mudder beforehand with Coach. So I will be out there. I'm going to be racing at Whistler. Chicago, I'm planning on racing at. I don't know how well I'm going to do at Chicago. I will be coming off of a 6-day-long adventure race, which literally ends 12 days before Chicago. So, it's a matter of what's the smartest move when Chicago comes around, but I'll think about that when the time comes. That's going to be a game time decision for me. I will be at Chicago for sure, though.
What are your plans for World's Toughest Mudder?
Obviously, I think anybody on a competitive level wants to win it. So it would be silly for me to say, I want to go in and place, 5th place. There are lots of things I need to work on. My focus is right now is are those weaknesses and just right now it's actually not even on those weaknesses. Right now it's getting up 100% in terms of being able to train the way I want to be training right now. So, I'm hoping that it happens sooner rather than later because it's not that far away. And it's not going to be easy at all. We're going to see the biggest field we've ever seen before, I'm sure, on both, in the whole race. It's going to be awesome. And actually, the energy is going to be out of this world. I'm just excited to be racing against, the women that will be out there.
I think you're totally right about the field. Once these Toughest Mudders start airing during the summer, I think it's going to drive the signups just through the roof.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt. And then you have, like, think about it. You have Allison did a race last year. Amelia's going to be back. Alex, Chikorita, like, she'll be there. Like, you're going to be seeing people that haven't, like, either haven't raced in the past year, or people that have never even done World's Toughest Mudder. I mean, it's going to be fun. And now how the race is set up, it's going to be tough. But, like, that's the fun of it is, why would they want to make it super easy for us?
You are the defending champion at World's Toughest Mudder. You and Amelia talked about teaming up on the TV show last year. Have you guys talked about that anymore?
Yeah, I have to talk with her. Actually, Amelia reached out to me. She was super sweet. She wished me luck for a race, and I've been a very bad person. I haven't responded back to her. So I will be responding back to her this week and having a talk with her. And I'll leave it at that.
Stefanie Bishop, anything else you want to say about Toughest Mudder?
No, I'm really happy, actually, that there is a series now in the OCR world. It's like bridging the gap between, the shorter events and the really long events. And I think it's just like, it's one of those events, 8 hours is such a, 8 hours, it's a lot of time. Like, it's not. It's a grind. It's a long grind. It's very different than a 24-hour event. And, like, I can't wait to see just how it continues to develop. And with all the coverage it's getting with CBS and everything this summer, how our sport in general is gonna blow up even more. And it's just an exciting time to be part of it.
Stefanie Bishop, thanks much.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, that's almost 2 hours of content, interviews, and news from Toughest Mudder Philly. Is that too long for an episode? Tell me what you think. Would you rather I break it into 2 or 3 weeks so you can have bite-sized chunks, or do you want it all at once? Shoot me an email at willhicks@gmail.com or leave me a review on iTunes. Thanks a lot.
You are officially my favorite podcast at the moment. I listen to like 20 different podcasts.
Aww. So
yeah.
You just made my night. You're very kind. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no. It's my thing I'm most interested in right now. So you just bring that to life. I love it.